You are watching Seven Rivers Sports here on KQEG. I'm your host, Terry Erickson. Each week, we bring an inside look into sports, into wellness, into fitness, introduce you to some key celebrities throughout the greater La Crosse area. Well, today you're going to be inspired because you're going to get the whole package of sports, of wellness, and fitness as we take a close, up close and personal look at Debbie Harris. Welcome to the show, Deb.
Thank you so much for having me today.
You know, when I think of you, I think of a quote we talked about before we went on the air. Beauty is as beauty does.
Yeah.
And just coincidentally, you said your mom used to say that to you.
She did.
So who is Debbie Harris?
Wow, that's a good question. And, you know, I don't think I'll ever find out. And I'm good with that because I'm always on the chase for her. Yes.
On the chase to kind of live up to her expectations?
Exactly.
Really? Well,
exactly.
Talk about, so the viewers get to know you up close and personal. Talk about your roots.
So I grew up in Northeast Iowa with a really strong connection to my family life, my grandparents, my great-grandparents. I knew all of them. And just hard work was part of our upbringing. We had a family bait shop and sold worms, and my parents started numerous businesses, so I was able to help with those. So hard work was part of daily life.
So the values that you learned, and I say this with my own family, at the end of dirt-covered roads, which is where the values of this country started, you may not have lived on the end of a dirt-covered road, but you lived in a rural community that taught you some pretty significant values.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And my grandparents' farm was about 2 miles away, and that was at the end of a dirt gravel road that I was on all the time. So definitely.
So when you look back at your roots and who you are today, and we're going to talk about lots of things here to get to know you, think back, go down memory lane and think about people that inspired you when you were young.
I think it was the strong women in my life, and one of them was my grandmother. She was very strong and just did special things for people. She always made you feel like you were the only thing in the world that mattered to her, and just the ways that she would do that really inspired me just to be kind and generous to people. And then also my mother, very strong, determined, strong-willed, never give up, never surrender attitude. So I grew up watching all of that and being surrounded with it. So
yeah, strong people. You know, all of us have goals in life, and one of them as servant leaders and involved in the community is to lift up others. Now, you said grandmother had a real gift to lift up others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was growing up, I remember, I was thinking about this the other day, we were doing a project, and I was always very into having everything be just perfectly done. I was so caught up in with that, and we were doing a project, and it wasn't quite right, and she would say, "That's okay, that's yours. You made that. And nobody else can make one like it because it isn't perfect. It's what you made." So just an example of how she was able to get you to flip your mindset and to really just believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had an interesting life, and I was thinking about another quote before we went on the air, and it's a Henry David Thoreau quote. You probably heard of him, a great poet. And he said, "One way to get the most out of life is to look upon it as an adventure." Now, we're going to talk about you and really personifying an adventurous life, but it started basically with several servant leadership positions in the area of healthcare. Mm-hmm. Let's go through those stops.
Well, it started when I was 16 years old. I was a CNA in a nursing home in my hometown. My mom, who I look up to, was a nurse there. And so I really got to learn a lot about how to care for people and make them feel like the most important person in the world while caring for them, respecting their dignity, and honoring them through that care that was provided. at an early age. And I also was able to help people pass on from this earth onto whatever comes next and whatever you believe in. And that really was a really big impact in my life. But, I've also, over the years, after I went through nursing school, moved out to Flagstaff, Arizona, did some work there, met my husband, and continued on. We moved back to the area about 9 years ago, and I was able to work as an executive director at a couple of the different local assisted livings, and able to work with mentoring and others to provide care and service to others as well.
Obviously, those places, those institutions, organizations recognized your leadership potential, your capabilities as you were executive director of Pleasant Valley and then Springbrook. And I know you championed a cause which is not quite at the level it should be, but it's growing, and that's fitness and wellness for seniors, for baby boomers and seniors. And I know you were a leading proponent of that. And let's just break it down into a couple of things on fitness and wellness for the senior population. A lot of people struggle with falls, and I know you've talked about and helped solidify some fall prevention techniques.
Yeah, so in one of the communities that I was at Springbrook, we did start a fall prevention program. One of the important things with fall prevention, that 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 fall every year. It's a fact. The odds of getting injured from a fall are more high than from a car accident. So it's really good to maintain your level of your physical ability now and preserve that. And so that means getting active, doing some light strength training, and also if you do have a fall, seek out resources in the area and see how you can then prevent that from happening again.
Our family saw dementia, Alzheimer's up close and personal with our mom and several of our aunts who passed away. So I was out to the nursing home essentially every day for 7 years as my mom was deteriorating from Alzheimer's. And I know there's some things that you, and there's more studies now, but you have sort of championed that too in maintenance and in assisting people with those cognitive issues.
Yeah, maintenance is very important because if you're not using it, you're losing it. And to be able to live out the time that people have left, that is the utmost time to be taking care of your body. And so some of the things that you can do are, just chair aerobics, and moving, encourage movement whenever possible. A lot of times you see a lot of sitting as a way to prevent falls, and that is the worst way to prevent falls.
And I know also you started your adventurous life, your purposeful life at a very young age. And so kind of again, going back to memory lane, and I know you told me, and I read this, that you had some goals in life at a young age, perhaps a little bit unique. You had a goal at the age of 18 to begin running and run a marathon. And then there were several other goals. But let's start with that goal.
Yeah.
How did that materialize?
So all throughout high school, I spent a lot of time working at the nursing home and not a lot of time for developing myself. And I wasn't into sports just because I was working a lot. And so I finally started putting fitness into my life and exploring what I liked. And running was something that I was just very passionate about. It was my stress reliever. It was a place where I could be myself, and it never let me down. And so I had heard about marathons before and just wanted to do one.
Yeah, and then following your heart, you hit the magic age of 30. I remember those days. At the age of 30. And then you really executed your goals.
Right. So, I mean, turning 30 for me was a turning point in my life, really, where I got to do a so-called, with my nursing background, I did an assessment of my life, or a self-evaluation, and working with all the older people that I have throughout my life, I imagine myself out at age 60, 80, 100, maybe I live longer, I don't know. And I imagine myself then, and what would I want when I'm physically not able to move like I want to now? What would I want to accomplish? And one thing I didn't want to live with not doing what I wanted to do. If there was a goal that I wanted to do, I wanted to accomplish it. And so that's what I started doing.
So you used a little bit, if I could just share this little bit of Socratic wisdom. One of Socrates' famous quotes is, "A life unexamined is a life not worth living." So you used Socrates' quote at the age of 30, and you were a visionary. You had that proverbial crystal ball, and like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm examining my life. I want it to be worth living.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, we are here for an undetermined amount of time, and I became determined to take advantage of it.
And so your personal philosophy, you'd be your biggest fan. We can talk about that. But you embarked then on several races, and you've accomplished a great deal. Some quick defining moments during that journey to those races.
Sure. So, as you know, marathon training is a lot of hours and miles, and I always imagine myself crossing that finish line during those hard training days, and that's how I got through, because that's an internal goal that I had for myself. And I would say during my first marathon, around mile 18, I just felt like all I knew was I didn't need anything else except for me and my feet in the ground to be happy, and it was almost like I gave birth to myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so you took a little water break. You hit the proverbial wall, and guess what? We just hit the wall too, because we need to take a water break and hear from our sponsors. So we're going to be back more with Debbie Harris right after this.
LASIK surgery at Mayo Clinic Health System.
Well, I was very nearsighted. I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me without things being blurry, so I had to wear glasses.
We screen patients. We try to make sure that they're appropriate candidates for LASIK, that their prescription is within the range, that it's reasonable to do it, that they have a good understanding of what they can expect, that they have a good understanding of what the benefits are and what the risks are.
For more information on LASIK surgery, contact Mayo Clinic Health System.
At Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, we have assembled a championship team
who listens to what your needs are.
We install Carrier comfort systems that improve the comfort, efficiency, and the air quality of your home and workplace.
We serve you with highly trained technicians who are prompt, friendly, and honest.
For Gold Star treatment, turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, your comfort is our business.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. Again, our guest today, Debbie Harris, an adventurist. You know, Oprah Winfrey, I used to watch her all the time, and my wife reads her magazines and so on. She said the biggest adventure that you can take is to live the life of your dreams and not take those dreams to your gravesite with you. Mm-hmm. And we talked in the first half about your dreams of running marathons and so on. And you've accomplished a lot with those dreams, but you still have a bucket list of a couple of big races that you still want to accomplish. Share those.
Sure. I think the first one would be I'd love to qualify for Boston. And I always look at the times and my past times and what I would need to qualify. So if it takes until I'm 80 or 90 to qualify for Boston, I'm all for it. I'm that determined. But I also want to, before I turn 40, do a 100-mile run.
Yeah, you know, that's great. just a sidebar, our daughter qualified for Boston, so we were all out there supporting her last year, and she did very, very well. But there were people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s running the Boston Marathon, unattached and so on. And I remember watching some of the older runners finish the race several hours after it started, like at dusk, and a couple of them essentially crawling to the finish line. Now, you talk about accomplishing a goal. I mean, that was powerful, emotional. Those are the kind of people that inspire you, and I'm sure they inspire you.
Definitely. I mean, if there's a will and your mind tells you to do it, your body will get you there.
One of the things you're embarking on now, and this is interesting because I've read a little bit about it, and that's holistic life coaching. And yeah, I break it down in like different dimensions. But before we talk about that, you know, holistic coaching to me is finding your soul and creating a balanced life, a fulfilled life. And if you don't take control of your life, there's the old saying, life will take control of you. And for many of us, sometimes I feel this way, your life's spinning out of control. For those of us that their life is spinning out of control, we probably need to see you. How do we get it back in control?
How do you get it back in control? I would counter that, how did you get there to begin with? You know, our life is a result of the choices that we've made and up until the point we're at. And the cool part about life is that you can change your choices, you can change your mindset anytime you want to. Well,
holistic life coaching. You know, some of us, I like this quote too, some people live their life either in a unconscious or a semi-conscious state, or they're on autopilot. You see that?
I do, and I really feel that prior to me doing the things that I was really passionate about, that's what I was on. I was on autopilot, and I was unconscious, and going through the motions, and just became awakened to what I wanted in life and what I wanted out of life, and decided that nothing's going to get between me and what I want to do with my life.
So the dimensions of, and we're not going to go through all these, I want to talk about Dancing with the Stars, but the 6 dimensions, emotional, intellectual, physical, social, spiritual, doesn't mean necessarily religion, but spiritual and vocational. Which of those do you think, if you're going to prioritize them, what would you say would be the number one thing?
For me, myself, my belief, my own personal belief, is a spiritual connection to yourself. And what that means to me is my personal slogan, and some of the things that you'll see coming from me in the future is be your own biggest fan. And that's basically what we tell ourselves in our minds, okay? So we have between 50 and 70,000 thoughts a day. And the only person that truly matters is you. And I think it starts there.
So be the change you want to see in the world is another slogan. And it starts with you. So I heard a friend of mine say, you know, Terry, you have the remote control. You can change the channel in your mind anytime you want. So if you want to change the channel, get rid of those toxic things, you can do that. Well, there was a compelling story in the paper that happened to you when you were 5 years old. I'm leading into Dancing with the Stars. I want to spend the rest of the show talking about that. We were all sort of unaware of what happened to you.
So about 2 weeks before Christmas, I can't remember the year, but I was 5 years old, which, by the way, my birthday is like 2 days after Christmas, so right before my 6th birthday.
Send a card to her now.
Right. I got, my teacher said, walk home from school today. Or walk home to your grandma's house, I'm sorry. And I walked there with my older sister, where we were informed that our house had burned to the ground. And that was where I basically, when you're that age, your identity is so heavily wrapped up in your home, I believe, that's just my own opinion, and losing everything, I guess at a very young age, showed me that what you needed and what you didn't need. And also it did show me the generosity of others at an early age.
Yeah, and it kind of, just to fast forward from there all the way till now, was that a sort of a catalyst perhaps to getting involved in not only an adventurous spirit, a spirit of gratitude and so on, growing up much younger than perhaps you wanted, but then just to sort of fast forward to what you're involved in now, Dancing with the Stars, the boxing program, and giving back, paying forward to organizations like the Red Cross, being an asset to the community. That's you.
Yeah, I believe that we are all able to give something to our community, and for me, this is how I choose to do that, because the community gives so much to me and my family. So one of the things that I support is the American Red Cross and what they do is, so one of the things that they go in and help people after home fires, disasters, and respond to that, and I want to support that. So I am raising funds through my different fundraising events for the Lacrosse Dances with the Stars, and one of the events is a boxing class.
Talk about that. It was featured in the paper recently, and I know I read that, and so did the whole community.
Yeah, so the class is called Femme Fatale. It was catering to women, and it was held at the La Crosse area boxing gym, or the training center on King and 5th in the lower level.
The building we're in, by the way, taping the show.
Yes, and so basically through the generosity of the owner there, Rick Mueller, I was able to hold the class and raise some funds and have fun and get fit while doing it.
Yeah, and I know I read a little bit about the workout, and you've kind of been a catalyst for going kind of the road least traveled in terms of fitness, because you don't think of females in a boxing class and so on and so by the way, I'm going to be there. My wife and I'm on the Red Cross board also, so we're going to be watching you compete and talk a little bit about that event so our viewers can mark that on their calendar.
Yeah, so on November 26th, it's a Saturday. It's starting at 6 p.m. I will be on stage at the La Crosse Center dancing with my partner Bree Warden, who's with Amanda's Academy of Dance. And so between now and then, and that night, I'm accepting donations on behalf of my team, and also selling tickets.
So can you give us a little bit of a clue as to what you're going to be dancing, kind of the music, the theme?
Oh my gosh, well, I think I can the only surprise, I want to keep it all a surprise, but the only thing I will share with you right now is that through dance and through the experience, I hope to tell a story that is inspirational.
And well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So I hope that our viewers, by the way, I did that several years ago. It was on my bucket list, probably 8 or 10 years ago, and I enjoyed it completely. And now I'm a fan and involved and work at it. So it's at the La Crosse Center on November 26th, and Debbie, along with several other people, will be raising money for the Red Cross, and it's one of our biggest fundraisers. And I think we've raised about $100,000 a year. And giving it all back to the community. Doesn't go anywhere else. Stays in the La Crosse community. So to have you dedicate yourself and give your time to that cause is certainly says a lot about who you are. So we appreciate that a lot. So one way to get the most out of life is to look at life as an adventure. We opened the show with that. We're going to close with that too, because you've lived that. To you, life is an adventure. Life is a gift. Life is paying forward, and you're doing that with all the things you're involved in, making the La Crosse area a better place to live. That's a tribute to you.
Thank you. It's a compliment.
Right. Yes. Well, again, our guest today, Debbie Harris, who is an advocate and champion of healthy living in the La Crosse area. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll be back with some football highlights right after this.
LASIK surgery at Mayo Clinic Health System.
I can see. I don't have to wear my glasses for driving, to go to the movies, for reading.
And I think it's a wonderful thing to offer people that freedom and independence of lenses, whether they're contact lenses or glasses, to be able to function every day from the morning to the evening and not think about it.
For more information on LASIK surgery, contact Mayo Clinic Health System.
At Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, we have assembled a championship team
Who listens to what your needs are.
We install Carrier comfort systems that improve the comfort, efficiency, and the air quality of your home and workplace.
We serve you with highly trained technicians who are prompt, friendly, and honest.
For Gold Star treatment, turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. Your comfort is our business.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Debbie Harris. You can see her live at the La Crosse Center on November 26th as she competes in Dancing with the Stars. Well, our cameras were at Roger Herring Field on Saturday as our Eagles played host to the Pioneers of Platteville. Let's go to Reed Magnum, our colleague, for this report.
The La Crosse Eagles wrapped up the 2016 season today with a tough 63-45 loss against number 11 UW Platteville. But what a game it was offensively. If we look first at the Pioneers, 480 total yards of offense, and 443 of those yards coming from the ground game. Wyatt Thompson, just a sophomore by the way, 30 carries for 316 yards, and he also had 4 scores. This was a really tough team to stop for the La Crosse defense. But if we look at the Eagles offense, what a game for Tarek Yagi, their quarterback. He attempted 66 passes today, completed 39 of them, 535 yards, 4 touchdowns. And one of the highlights was a 66-yard touchdown pass to Nick Holcomb. That certainly got the crowd excited. Overall today, both teams had 29 first downs. It was pretty even there. La Crosse never gave up, though. And this game was within 2 scores a number of times because the Eagles just wouldn't quit. And that was certainly indicative of the game when, at the end, when it was out of reach, they kept on fighting, scored a touchdown at the end, and then even went for an onside kick and recovered that because they wanted to keep on playing football. And that's what Coach Smith in his first season as the head coach for La Crosse seemed to instill in his players. You never give up, you keep on playing. And those guys looked like they were having a blast on the field all season long, no matter what the score was, and they were certainly fun to watch. As we look at the 2016 season in whole, well, it was kind of a tale of 2 seasons. They started off the first part of the year 5-0, and I think one of the highlights of the season was when they were going into the 4th quarter against second-ranked Whitewater, and they were right in it. They did eventually lose that game in the Final 4, but this team was really fun to watch all year long, and the future is certainly bright for the La Crosse Eagles. We've had a blast covering them all season long, so until next year, Reed Magnum, KQEG Sports.
Well, next week, the spotlight on the Aquinas Blue Goals as we salute a great season, 14-0 in the MVC all the way to the state tournament. Our guest will be head coach Bree Eberhol, along with Megan Mazzola and Danielle Dolan. I'm your host, Terry Erickson, hoping that you will have an active and a healthy week ahead. So long from all of us here at Seven Rivers Sports.